Hi, I'm Emily.
And I'm Hayley.
After meeting online, we became international best friends who bonded over how hard it is to find success in the entertainment industry.
Join us and our celebrity co-authors as they help us write the book on how to make it.
And more importantly, uncover what making it even means.
Hi, my name is Margaret Cho, and I wanted to be a stand-up comedian when I grew up.
Wonderful.
Made
it. Check. I read that you started at like 14.
Yeah, but I think I started in my mind when I was probably about 8.
And how?
I wanted to just feel like I had friends. Like I watched Joan Rivers on TV, and she had these catchphrases when she'd do it in her comedy where she'd say, "Can we talk?"
Yeah.
And everybody knew what it meant. And like when you have a catchphrase like that, everybody's your friend, and they've already been updated and aware with what you're going to say and what that means. There's like code meanings, and so that was so appealing to me. I just knew that was what I wanted to do. And when I was really a little kid, I had very vivid dreams about being a stand-up comedian, and it feels much like it feels like now.
Wow.
It's really interesting, but it's an art form that I've grown up with, that I've known my entire adult life and much of my childhood. But yeah, I've always wanted to do this.
Like, were you performing live at 14? You must have been so small.
Yes, very small, very brave. I don't know. I had a teacher who was signing us up. She was a theater teacher, so she was signing us up for open mic nights at comedy clubs in our city in San Francisco. So I was doing shows. There's some YouTube of me and Sam Rockwell. We were a comedy duo.
Oh.
So there's stuff on YouTube of us when they came to our school and did some TV shows about it. And so we were just really ambitious little kids who didn't want to be kids anymore. You know, we were young adults, very much in the way of being adults, wanting to be adults. I wanted to be an adult, and I wanted to be a comedian.
Wow. That's so impressive. That's like a very intelligent thought for an 8-year-old to be like, oh, catchphrases would give me make me recognizable to the masses. Like, I was not thinking about that when I was 8.
Yeah, I was already into branding, which is good, you know, thinking about it in those terms. But yeah, I loved it. And Joan and I later became good friends, and, you know, I leaned on her a lot for support and for guidance, and she was just incredible with me. What an incredible woman! But she was somebody that helped me a lot in my life.
I feel like you might actually just be psychic. That's a lot of predicting that came. That's incredible. So we move on to telling you 2 facts that we discovered about you, 2 random facts on the internet. And mine, I did not know this, I swear, until like 2 weeks ago when I was on your Instagram going deep, and I saw that you had posted my review for your film, All That We Love, and I didn't know before I reached out to interview you, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, I guess I'm not sleeping. I was so excited. So I just wanted to talk about that film because I was crying in like the first 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm wondering.
Thank you.
I mean, I just thought it was, my favorite thing about it was the premise is not, you know, Deadpool and Wolverine. It's not, it's like something that happens to people on a daily basis, but I was like so riveted by it. So I'm wondering how you chose to become a part of that, if you read the script, if it was made with you in mind, and how you kind of prepared for something like that.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for that review. That was really marvelous, and I'm so grateful that you wrote that. I read the script, and Otsko, who's also in the film, Otsko Okatska, wonderful comedian, who alerted me. She had gone to film school with Yan Tan, who is the writer director of the film, and she said, you need to work with him. He's the real deal. You know, really, he's the best. And so I was excited to read the script, and I opened the page and started crying, like the first page, crying, because I've been through that.
Mhm.
Loss of an animal. It's really intense, and especially one that's like your heart dog. You
Yeah.
know, so throughout the film, there is that the presence of that heart dog, and there's a like the dog actors were so cute. They were so beautiful in the film, and then my dog, who's right here, she was on set
Oh my
every
god.
Oh,
moment of the day, and she was there, and she couldn't be on camera, but she was right there with me, experiencing it all. But it's an incredible thing that we get these relationships with these creatures, and we get so close to them.
Mhm.
And so I think the film really represents that.
Yeah, it was like I mean I had pets as a kid, but suddenly I was like I was there and I felt like the directing too was so well done. It made like that those common things feel extraordinary, which was like yeah, I just loved it. I'm just like sobbing in my house alone. Like I was not expecting this at all. But yeah,
I love it. Thank you.
yeah, it was great.
she
Thank
went
you.
on about it for quite some time, Margaret.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I mean, I love the film because it's such a big story for a person, but a
Mhm.
small story for film.
Mhm.
You know, when we go see films, it's often like big explosions and
Yeah.
apocalypse and like civil wars and all this stuff. And this kind of thing happens every day to people, and it's
Mhm.
the biggest thing that happens in their
Mhm.
lives. And you know, I love a film that really captures that, and captures the enormity of every day. And I was really appreciative to be a part of this project.
Yeah. For me, it was like the deeply primal nature of it. Like, I think everybody understands grief. Like,
Mhm.
understands. You know, everybody's been there in some
Mhm.
way, haven't they? And yeah, it really did it in an interesting way, I felt.
Thank you, thank you. I'm really proud of it. I'm proud of everybody's performances, and Yen is a wonderful director and writer.
Yeah, you could tell it was like just by a crew that had pulled together as well. Like, yeah, I think you can tell when crews are fragmented, and it felt like it was solid.
Yes, yeah, it felt really good
Solid.
to us.
Haley, would
Absolutely.
you like to throw out your fact?
I would. I hope it's true. Well, I don't hope it's true,
Well, no,
actually.
yeah,
No,
we'll debunk it if it's
no.
not.
So like it's one of my bucket list things to go in a hot air balloon on a hot air balloon ride. And then
Yeah.
I read that you were involved in a hot air balloon crash, and then it made me question all my life choices.
Well, what happened was it was a freak accident. So it's an unlikely event, and
Good to know.
it was very, very rare occurrence. This had never happened before in that particular area, and it was in the 1980s, and it was I had won a comedy competition, but I came in third, so the prize was to go on a hot air balloon ride. So I went on a date with a young man, and we went out at like 5 in the morning to go do this hot air balloon in Napa. So we go up, and the pilot the whole time is telling jokes about how we're going to crash. He's just joking. He's like, no, I'm totally serious. This is like the safest thing. It's like so easy. And then we're rising up, and then we start to move very quickly. And he's like, oh, this is not good. And everybody's laughing. And he's like, no, it's not a joke. It's not a
Oh
joke.
no.
And then it
What?
just dropped, and about 10 balloons in the air, all I could see them all from the side. They were all falling really quickly. We had to fall really quickly to the ground until, because we were being swept by this freak windstorm into a forest. So we're falling really fast, and everybody's like looking around. My date uh, put his whole body around me and shielded me. I was
Oh, that's
against
nice.
these like fuel tanks that were like filled with like gasoline. It was like
Oh
really
my
scary because they
goodness.
were rattling. And he put his arms around me, like his whole body, to shield me from the impact of these bottles and of gas and the ground. And we hit the corn, like not cornfield, it was a cow patty, like pasture. And we dragged, and all this cow shit went in my nose and my
Oh,
ears and my mouth. And but it broke our fall. We got out, we kind of like dusted off, and then everybody just kind of separated. Um, we were kind of vaguely like somewhat okay, so we sort of left the melee of like what was happening. There was like ambulances and emergency vehicles and everything. We just kind of walked away, and we got in my car and we drove to the emergency room. We got little splints and bandages, like cuts, whatever, treated. And then we went back to my apartment and tried to have really weird sex. I don't know. I think we were trying to normalize the experience.
yeah.
Oh, this is like trauma. We better try to do it. And then, uh, but it was like 11 in the morning. And he goes, I'm going to go. And I was like, okay. And then I just laid there like, I'm so weirded out. I didn't see him again. Um, I'm sure he remembers me. But it was like somebody died in the basket,
Oh
the
my
balloon
God.
next to us, and then I had to be subpoenaed because the pilot of the one that kept making the bad jokes on the way up, sued the company for going up that day because they hadn't done a fair assessment of the weather.
Right.
And so he had permanent like PTSD and like all this like physical damage from it, that came out later on, and he couldn't continue anymore as a pilot. And so he sued the company, but overall it was a freak accident. So I think um,
Haley, are you ready to go
That
in
was
a hot air?
such a journey.
it's not that I would probably go again because the likelihood of me being in another hot air balloon accident is too high for it to ever be a problem. Um, and I
And the
fly.
likelihood of the weird sex afterwards is
Yeah, the
also
weird
quite low.
that's probably likely because if something weird happens, I try to have sex because that's the
Same.
way I normalize it, which is like a trauma response, which is probably isn't good. But if like
I'm with you. I get it.
something weird happens, I'm like, all right, like that I just try to have sex in order to that's for me is like it gets me back down to baseline. It's my
Yeah, it's a
default.
grounder.
It's such a weird response to do. Not the best, but he
You
yeah, he
this
was
was a
there. So
this was for you said you came in third place?
yeah,
And what happened to the first place person?
I think they got a bunch of money.
Oh,
I think they
okay.
got a
Oh,
bunch of money, and then the
screw
second, I
them.
don't know what the second place probably got a vacation, and then the third one is a hot air balloon ride with a champagne brunch. That was what was
Ooh.
funny about my date is that when we're like, as soon as the basket stopped dragging on the ground, he looks up and he goes, he's covered in cow shit, and he's coughing and sputtering, and he goes, I guess that means there's no champagne brunch. It was really cute.
That was a good joke for the
It was a good joke, and it was a way to kind of like, oh, we didn't die, or not, also to check to see if we were still alive.
right.
And it was brave. Like he actually like used his whole
Yes, that
body
was
to
nice.
shield mine. That's kind of amazing. And on our first date, I was like, hey, that's kind of cool.
It's
Yeah.
Good for
impressive.
him.
It's
Good for him.
impressive. I know.
Man,
I wonder what happened to him.
I know. I think his name was John. I think I can't even remember.
John, if you're listening, what happened? Um well, I'll move us on. I wanted to talk about cuz in your stand up, and I mean we just touched on how young you were when you started, but in your stand up you talk about like some traumatic things you've been through. You've talked about it in interviews and stuff like that. And I find a lot of times when people go through really tough times, they kind of shut down. But you were such a workhorse when you first started. I mean, like with the college touring and this, but like just right out of the gate, it felt like you were working so hard. And I'm wondering how you found that strength to kind of kick into gear because I feel like a lot of times it's the opposite. And I find it so impressive and incredible that you were able to, and with comedy, kind of just flourish in this way that I feel like a lot of people wouldn't be able to.
Oh, thank you. It's just energizing. Like I love the art form, and you're constantly trying to figure it out. And college comedy tours are really difficult because you're
Hmm.
moving in between schools, and oftentimes they're not the optimal conditions because you're sometimes performing in the cafeteria at noon on top of tables. And at least back then we weren't fighting with people with smartphones. This is before we had phones or even
Yeah.
computers, really. So everybody would just like have you to look at while they're like eating lunch, and so you just kind of deal with the regularness of that. It's funny, but I just love the art form, and I love to try to figure it out. And it's a constant challenge, and it's a constant opportunity to work on what it is. And I do shows pretty much every day. It's a big part of my life, and it's a big
Hmm.
part of my social life. All my friends are comics, and we just hang out, and that's what we do.
Would you say it was like that work, that kind of work was therapeutic for
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely therapeutic, but it's also more than that. It's like social, it's economic, it's how I make
Hmm.
my
Yeah.
living. Um, and it's a connection with audience members, but also other comics, and this connection with my own mind and trying to figure out what is the things that I'm going to work on. What are the stories that I'm
Right.
going to tell? What is the outcome of this, and what's the point of this, so these are all to sort of um, get my mind right. It's all about that.
Yeah.
Did you drive your family crazy practicing your material on them?
No, they didn't really. No, I've never practiced on anybody. That's
No.
probably only like with audiences.
Yeah.
Like I've never really I think most comedians I know would never do that. They would never try their jokes on their friends or family, because that in for us that's really considered very taboo. There's something
Oh,
about that's very like, oh, that you should don't try your jokes out on your friend. Like it's one thing to say, I'm going to thinking about doing this in my act. What do you think about it?
right.
That's one thing. But instead, or it's more like if you just spring that on somebody, it's not good. It's
Right.
very what is it, outre, or it's not cool to do that. But we maybe that's a sort of a suspicion that we're suspicious. It's a superstition. It's a superstition that we don't do it.
I was
Interesting.
going to
Yeah,
say, can
I
somebody tell my 12-year-old? She could.
No.
She's developed an obsession with Jack Whitehall and comes
Oh,
to
great.
me daily with just her version of Jack Whitehall
Oh,
gags. It's
that's cute.
it's not ending though. It's been a
mm,
year now.
Yeah.
It's
It's funny, like sometimes people get like they get so into comedy and they want to do it, and that's how they sort of start, is like by looking at somebody and thinking, "Oh, I want to be like them." And maybe I sort of did that when I was young with somebody like Joan Rivers. I was
mhm.
definitely
yeah.
trying to be like her. And now I look at that and I'm like, I'm definitely still trying to be like her.
I think it's nice when you see threads of other people's work
Hmm.
through contemporary work, though.
Yeah. I love
I
it.
love that.
Yeah.
It
I
must be exhausting to just be trying to be funny all the time, though. Like, I get why you'd kind of go to a serious zone with it. It must be exhausting.
Yeah, people sort of expect that of you, or
yeah.
they think, oh, they make an assumption that that's what you're going to be like. But comedy itself is quite a thoughtful,
Hmm.
precise art form, and it's less about being funny as it more is it about being observant, and
Yeah.
more about being consistent in the ability to be observant. So it's more that, I think.
I wanted to ask you, Margaret, about becoming a beloved figure in the drag world and, yeah, becoming a bit of an icon. What do you think it is about your persona and your work that resonates so deeply with the drag community?
I love that. I love drag queens. I've grown up with drag. I grew up in San Francisco, just in the middle of everything, and I really admire drag. It is like stand up comedy plus. It's stand up
Yeah.
comedy with music, with dance, um, costumes,
Costumes.
so much, it's like an enhanced version of stand-up comedy, but it's still mostly stand-up comedy. And so we have a lot in common, drag
Mm-hmm.
queens and comedians. We're really the same in a lot of ways, but they have to do a lot more work than we do. They have to carry their costumes from city to city. That's the worst, when you see a poor drag queen at the airport and they're
The
having to
suitcases.
drag their bags.
Mm.
There's so many bags filled with like headdresses and wigs, and it's rough. It's really hard, but I really admire them, and I think that, what I think also with the gay community loves strong female voices, and they
Mm-hmm.
love female comedians, and so I'm part of the legacy of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is so much of my work that talks about the gay community. And being queer myself,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much of that in my political life and in my
Mm-hmm.
social life, and so we find community there. But I'm such a fan of drag.
Yeah. Who's
Yeah,
your favorite drag artist?
I was gonna say you can't ask that.
There's so many, but I really, well, I love Nina West. I just did a film
Yes.
with her. In We did a zombie movie together, which is a drag zombie movie, which is so
Whoa.
incredible, and she's just marvelous. And I love Trixie Mattel and Katya. I
My
love
favorite.
Bianca Del Rio. Like, I love, who is essentially just a stand-up comedian. She's
Yes.
just so great, and as is Trixie. But Trixie's also an incredible musician and
Mm-hmm.
a designer. Just her aesthetic um, is incredible. But also their output and what they do is like comedians and performers all over the world. It's just genius. Bob the Drag Queen is unstoppable, just incredible. I mean, there's so much to say about what people are doing. Alaska, I just saw Alaska on
Alaska.
a flight, and we're out of drag. They just walk around. They're just
Yeah.
these like beautiful young men. Like I always see them at the airport with all their bags and without any makeup, and I always just grab them, and they're always scared because I have the mask on, and I'm like
Oh.
grabbing them. They're like, "What?" And I have to pull my mask on as Margaret, and it's very, to me, it's so funny and fun to just see them out of drag
Mm-hmm.
in life. And I love Kimchi,
Yes.
Nymphia, everybody. I'm like so in love with the drag world.
Me too. One of my favorite Trixie things that she said, which reminded me of what you said about Comedy Plus, is Trixie and Katya. They do that YouTube show where they do
Yeah,
recaps of shows, and they were doing a makeup competition, and they were both like, "Can you imagine just having to do someone's makeup? Like that's all you have to
that's all
do."
you have to do.
Yeah, yeah, and Trixie was like, if this was Drag Race, it would be like, and you have to perform surgery, and the patient's your mother, and you have like 1 hour. It's just incredible what they do and how
So
hard they work.
incredible. I felt bad, like when I was on Drag Race. I judged,
Yeah.
and there was a where you could watch them in their makeup room.
Mm-hmm.
So the mirror is like a double mirror, and they can't see you. So you're behind the mirror. You can observe them,
Wow.
but you can't. I didn't want to be in there. I felt really like scared. I was like, I don't want to. I felt bad. I mean, it was part of the show, but I was like, I was really scared. Like there was something about it to me that made me really terrified. But I do love that show, and I really was. I just did something with RuPaul last week, and I was begging her to do race in Korea, because Drag Race Philippines is so good.
Yes. The
We need to
fashion
have one
is.
for Korea. Would be amazing
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
someday.
It was like watching Drag Race was my kind of like, it's how I found out how much work goes into it, because like in the UK I think a lot of people's like introduction to drag was Paul O'Grady, Lily Savage. I don't
Yeah.
like, yeah, and like Lily is she's just an icon in this country,
Hmm.
and that's basically all we had for a really
Yeah.
long time. And I had no idea like the scale of it. It's
Yeah.
huge. It's
Mm-hmm.
huge.
It's incredible.
It's
And
absolutely
it's
huge.
global, and it's also, now we have a generation of drag queens who grew up watching it.
Yes.
Mm,
So
that's
this
it.
is like another level. of excellence. There's just so much happening, and I really appreciate it as an art form.
Will you bring, I know you have your residency at Joe's Pub coming up, right? I have tickets. I live in New Jersey, so I'm coming to a show on the October 25th.
Oh, you're
Um,
going to Charlene Case. That's great.
yes, yes,
She's
yes. As soon as
wonderful.
it was announced, I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be really, really good.
Will you bring any drag shows there?
There is some there's a lot of trans shows. There's a lot of
Okay,
trans performers that are doing the Margaret's Children's show.
okay.
Like I'm basically like my nursery, so it's my beautiful darling baby children, trans women, and my beautiful baby they thems
I love
Yes,
are
that.
doing a show. So it's Sabrina Wu and Nori Reed and Robin Tran are doing one night, and then Sam O, the gay
Mhm.
virgin, and Dylan Adler are doing another night. And so that's my
Amazing.
babies, which is really great.
Okay, I have to get more tickets.
Going to be great.
Yeah,
Amazing.
that's you for the foreseeable, Emily.
Yes, I will be a regular at Joe's Pub.
So we move on
Okay.
to a section now, Margaret, called the story. And it's about kind of a point in your career where you're thinking, oh, can I be bothered to carry on? Like, why am I doing this kind of thing? So, for example, this week, I had a production. I'm an intimacy coordinator, and I had a production contact me and basically beg me to come to set that day, even though I had loads on. And I did all the pre-work. I did it all, and I drove 2 hours to get there. And then I get to the production, and it's like I don't exist, and they haven't put any time into this. They haven't done anything that I've asked for, and it's like they've just tick boxed it off. They've gone, oh, there's an intimacy coordinator, buzz it. Yes. And I can't actually do my job properly. So I put myself right out there and I can't actually do my job. And yeah, have you had an instance in your career where you're just like, oh, what's the point?
I think that, well, thank you. I love intimacy coordinators. I'm so grateful that we have them now because it's just so important. I mean, it's like a human rights violation to
Hmm.
not have
Absolutely.
one, especially like with all the kind of stuff that goes on or can go on a film set, or movie set, TV set, whatever. The levels of uncomfortable things that actors are required to do to keep our jobs,
Yeah.
and you guys keep us safe, which is so appreciated and important. It's just,
Thank you, Margaret.
oh, it's unbelievable how much better it makes it.
Good.
We're so comfortable now to do anything, like it's true. Like um, yeah, I've been through, I was doing a scene one time. This is like a long time ago when I was really like a young actress, and the actor got an erection in this scene, and I was so scared. And it wasn't his fault. It
No.
was just that just happened, and I was like, but it felt like traumatic to me in the
Hmm.
situation, like because I don't. It was just like this thing, and I felt really freaked out. And it's like
Hmm.
that's the kind of stuff we would deal with on a daily basis. Like
Yeah.
in the 80s and 90s, you just have to deal with that. That's just something that happened.
Yeah, see, now there's so much that we put in place to stop that becoming a traumatic
I
experience.
know now it's like so great because we have our like deflated rubber balls and
Yeah, we put our
and
padding in. Also,
and it's
sour
so
sweets
easy.
make it go away.
Hmm.
A really sour sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's all
It's so
gone.
it's so good to have that layer, but like I think that for me it was more one night was actually during like doing a lot of that college touring,
Hmm.
and I was so like sleep deprived and getting up in the middle of the night every day to go to another city.
Yeah.
And I remember like jumping up in my hotel room, not entirely sure of where I was, just started packing my bag, just assuming I was late, and getting out the door. And I realized I looked at the clock and it was 11 p.m. And I was just like, what the, like, I was so scared because I didn't even
Yeah.
know where I was. I didn't even know like what time I had to leave. Like, and it was like that thing of like, I can't even relax. Like, I can't even lay my head down because I'm just so scared I'm going to miss my flight, scared I'm going to be late, scared I'm going to not do that. And it was just really, I was like, what is this for? What is
Wow.
this even for? And I've never come back to that place mentally. I've made space in my mind now. Like if I have the heavy days in my schedule, I just take some time to really look at that and go, those are the days that I need to lean more into meditation. Those are the days that I need to lean more into um, finding places where I can be calm and be quiet. And, if it isn't sleep, at least it's silence.
Hmm.
If it isn't totally like taking a nap, then it's just like not doing anything or even not having a conversation with another person. I mean, it's just, for me, it's like I trying to safeguard my peace because I can get into this place where it gets really hectic and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So, yeah, I've gotten to a place where it's just like, why am I doing this? Why? But those are real signs to help you direct your thinking to a place of peace and find wherever that peace lies because it's there. And even though in a very busy schedule, you can still find a breath where you can be peaceful.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about like having your personal boundaries as well. Like I'm just discovering this for myself recently. Just being able to kind of go, yeah, I need this time.
Hmm.
It's yeah, it's an interesting place for sure to kind of feel around it. And I think it takes people a long time to get there, generally.
What about
Me.
boundaries? Yeah, setting boundaries is so good.
But it's
Getting
like I
there,
love.
Emily.
No, I know. Haley's been waiting for me to get there for 3 years. Yeah, no, I like the course correction. I'm like, let me see if it happens again this time when I do the same things I did last time without changing anything. Yikes. Anyway, oh boy. Um, so Margaret, if you had to put a definition on what making it means to you, and this can be in career or in life, what would that be?
I think making it's just feeling good. Like I feel good pretty much all the time. And that's really because I'm very satisfied in my career. I'm
Mm-hmm.
satisfied in my artistic life. I have a lot of fun in my creative life, and I feed my creative life a lot. With doing lots of shows, doing a lot of writing, taking on lots of different kinds of roles as an actor, making music. So I feed my artistic life and I feed my creative life, but I also have fun and I also have like a good, strong sense of what I need from the world, and whether that's silence and isolation, like solitude, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's animals, whether that's friends and people and hanging out and just having a good time, or going to see movies, or going to see concerts, or whatever that is. Like I think like I feel like making it is just feeling good, feeling happy and satisfied in your life, and that can happen at any age, at any stage in your career. You're making it if you're enjoying the process of doing what you're doing.
What advice, if any, would you give to someone? Because we now live in a world where we talk to a lot of people who are up and coming who are battling like the algorithms and the numbers and the likes and the views, and it kind of drains out the remembering why you started in the first place. So do you have any advice that you would give to someone in a world that's like so focused on awards and numbers and things like that?
Well, art is its own reward, and to do it and create it and be it and live it is as good as it gets always. And
Mm-hmm.
that recognition from others is an element of it. And of course, there's financial reward and accolades and all of that stuff. But you have to remember why you do what you do in the first place, and that let that be the enjoyment. Like for me, the best feeling is writing a joke, telling it on stage, and it working.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like the best feeling. And so I'm always chasing that. It's like I'm addicted to that feeling. And that feeling has very little to do with maybe posting that online and how many views it gets,
Right.
or how many uh, how if it goes viral or whatever. It that could happen, but I don't chase that. What I'm
Mm-hmm.
chasing is the feeling that I felt when I wrote it and then put it up there and people responded. So I think it's about realizing why you do what you do. If you're doing this for accolades and for views and for the gram and all that stuff, that's all good. But it may not be as rewarding to you in the end because that stuff is so imprecise. It's so hard to navigate what's actually going to get you that. If you're really looking for that and that is the joy that you're getting is that the sort of accolades, then you have to keep on producing
Right.
and then keep on putting stuff into feeding the algorithm so that
Yeah.
it comes your way because inevitably it will.
Mm-hmm.
You keep on feeding it. It can take a long time. The people in the industry that I have known who are really successful are not the most famous or the like the not the most beautiful. Like the people who are successful are the people who just keep
Yeah.
doing it and keep plugging away and keep on working and keep on feeding it, and they will eventually achieve it, whatever they're looking for, or something better. But it's interesting, like people get very frustrated with it, and show business also changes so
Mm-hmm.
much. There may be a time where we don't have the algorithm because we
Totally.
didn't
Yeah.
have it before.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
relatively new in the
Yeah.
past like decade or so. We didn't have that before. So in maybe a few years we may not have that system. It may be a whole new system
Mm-hmm.
that we're confronting. So the resiliency of the artist to really make it is to find the simple thing of what is it that makes you feel the best about doing your art and chase that.
I love that.
Yeah, same. Have you ever been tempted to change the way you do things to kind of fit those algorithms and such like?
Yeah, well, I think like yes and no. Like I think, oh, that would be cool if I could be like. Sometimes I see some of these people who are like famous for calling people out.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna call like you know what I mean. They get really like indignant about some kind of issue, and then call people. So I really like those creators. So I think they're brave, and I think that they're really unique. It's
Mm-hmm.
quite like heroic to do what they do. But then it gets dismantled because people go into their past and they're like, "Wait, you said this, but like, and then you were not married on a plantation, like that kind of stuff." Like, and it becomes like this whole messy. I always
Yes.
think, "Oh, that's so funny," because we want to present ourselves as these like faultless beings, but it's impossible
Mm-hmm.
because the internet is forever, and so you're always going to be presented with the worst versions of yourself.
You think with because we obviously had a streaming boom where streaming kind of happened, a handful of years ago, and then it was like a million shows, and then and now it's like kind of settling. I actually saw this thing recently where it was like some bundle of so many different streaming services, and someone commented and was like, "Isn't this cable?" Do you do you think that? Yeah, it's like we always end up back where we started. So I think the argument of like, yeah, Instagram's probably not going to be around forever. Do you think that'll like be something that shifts how people have to create once again?
I think so. I think it's always going to change.
Yeah.
Everything is always changing, and that's what's so great about it. But then also everything kind of remains the same because like the way that I go about things and the way that I go about my business, um, like sitting down, writing a joke, telling it that night,
Hmm.
seeing what that's always going to be the same. So that like that
Yeah, yeah,
process
yeah. And yeah. Yeah, I
and
guess the people who are doing it for Instagram would be the ones with the problems, not the people who are doing it because they love.
yeah, or
Yeah.
if they're doing it for Instagram, it's just going to change to whatever other platform because we
Yeah.
as human beings need to connect.
Right.
So we'll be connecting on a different level, whatever that medium becomes. I
Hmm.
don't know what the next change will be with technology will bring us, but there'll be something.
Oh, it's
I
so
miss
interesting.
MySpace.
I love MySpace.
I
I love all
did.
those weird like animations that would make your computer crash. Have a good
Yeah.
weekend, and it would be like these things that are like angel fire. Everything would crash down.
Let's bring that back.
You could have
Love
like
it.
really like gaudy color schemes, and you'd like
Yeah.
top people who you liked and all the people that you fancied.
Yes. It was really I I like my. I was never really on MySpace that much because I didn't really even have a computer till later. So, and I didn't even have a phone till much later. So I'm a little relative newcomer to any of this.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good place to be because it's
Yeah.
just all ridiculous anyway.
Yeah.
If I didn't get lost so much, I would just have one of those phones with two buttons. But I need my GPS.
Oh,
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
I used to be really good with a map before Google Maps, and
Out
it's
the
just
window.
made me dumb. It's made me dumb. Anyway, so our last section is called Your Chapter Title. So we're hoping at some point, aren't we, Emily? We're hoping to make all of these episodes into a little mini book, and each person, each guest is going to have a chapter title. So, like, if you could think of a chapter title that sums up your career journey so far, what would it be? Give you a bit of time to
Um,
think.
Yeah.
the ever evolving adventure.
Ooh, you were right
Oh,
there.
yeah. That's great. That was very concise and
Oh,
beautiful.
good. Thank you. Yeah, because it is. It's always changing. It's an adventure, but it's always evolving into something else.
Huh. Is there anything you hope comes in the future that you haven't done yet?
I don't know. Like, I mean, I have an album of music coming out in November-ish, and I want the experience of maybe playing more live music in a larger fashion. You know, I played a lot of live music in clubs and a little bit in a addendum to my stand-up comedy. But yeah, I'd love to do a little bit more. So we'll see.
Cool. Are we going for an arena tour,
Yeah,
Margaret?
that would be great.
Amazing. Love that. It
Yeah,
is ever evolving.
one of
Yeah,
my favorite parts of seeing shows at Largo was that it was a mix of comedy and often music
yeah,
too, which I'd never seen them combined before.
yeah. I love it. I love Largo, and it's my. I have a monthly show there, so I'll do a show there this weekend. And you know, it's for me. It's a really important place. It's a place that I will always perform.
Yeah, it's a really cool venue. I was glad that, COVID didn't like make it go
Yeah,
away.
Mm,
yeah. It's really
So,
special.
yeah.
cool.
Haley, anything else, Haley?
I think we've covered it.
So this has been like a highlight for me. So thank you so much for being on and for being wonderful. And
Thank you.
I'm very excited to see the show in October slash
Yeah,
for how long you're there.
wonderful.
Um,
Thank you.